We will be interviewing Howard Willis, born April 5th, 1926. He served in World War II, and his highest rank was a Petty Officer 3rd Class. This interview is taking place on December 2nd, 2011, at Da Vinci Charter Academy in Davis, California. This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress as part of the Da Vinci High School America at War Project. All right, so do you think you could tell us a little bit about your life before the war?
Well, as you know, I was 17 when I went into service, but prior to that, freshman, my mother thought I was too small to play football, so I played in the band. I had played in the band in the grammar school. But anyway, so later on in the service, that playing in the band helped me because there was some marching and drilling and stuff like that. But anyway, I played a lot of football. My father had a ranch out there west of Woodland, and also trucking. And starting in the 7th grade, because the guys were going into service, you couldn't get help to load the trucks. I started loading trucks. And there's a way to load and do it easily. And I learned how to do it. My dad showed me how to do it easy. So you'll see later on in the story the stuff that I lifted. Let's see. Well, anyway, I had an awful lot of fun in high school and fast cars and always girlfriends. And I just had a hoot. Right. And I could hardly wait to get into the service. So I went over with a bunch of guys around February to enlist over in Sacramento at the post office, and I couldn't pass the test. I couldn't pass the eye test because they said, take your glasses off. Well, geez, I went down to the Army, but they wouldn't take me. So I went back home, went to my optometrist. He says, Howard, you've got to take your glasses off for an hour before. Well, okay, rest is history. Went back over there, passed the test, and so now I'm ready to go. And what do? It'll say in the thing, I came down with the mumps. And so I had to belay that instant getting into the service. So kind of the rest of the thing is picked up on my recording that I've made. But that's the history that we moved in from the ranch when I was 7 years old, and went to the primary schools, and there was only 5,000 people in Woodland at that time. I think that was 1932 or something like that. And so right now I think it's 50,000. So anyway, is there any other questions, honey?
Yeah, we have a couple more. So you enlisted in the Army.
Navy.
In the Navy, sorry. Could you tell us a little bit more about that process and how you eventually
I'm going to turn my hearing aids up a little bit. Talk about what?
So actually going into the Navy, and you mentioned before that you ran away when you were 17. What was that like?
I didn't run away. I just went into the service.
Oh, okay.
And as my recording will tell you, that the folks gave us a going away party over a fancy restaurant in Sacramento, which still exists today, Frank Fats, and all my buddies, and I necked all the way over with my girlfriend. And then after dinner, they put me on the train, and we trained it down to Los Angeles. And later found out in a letter that my mother told me that she necked my buddy all the way back to Woodland. My so-called close girlfriend. Okay. Well, anyway, what other questions?
So, what was your reason for choosing the Navy over other branches?
Well, we had a summer house over at Dillon Beach. That's north of San Francisco. And we had some wonderful fishing boats, and we'd go out there and we'd fish for everything, you know, halibut, salmon, and so on, and crab. And of course I knew, you know, port and starboard and red right returning and all these nautical terms, and I just wanted to go in the Navy. My dad had been in World War I in the Army, but hey, I wanted to get in the Navy, so the rest is history again.
Right. So, what was it like, or what was your experience at training camp? And
I can't.
what was your experience at training camp?
Oh, that's boot camp.
Boot camp, okay.
But that's where they train you. Well, that's a hoot. When you arrive on the bus and you're climbing off the bus, here's guys that only been there 3 or 4 days, and they say, "You'll be sorry," and when you get your head skinned, and all this kind of jazz, you know, and off in the distance you hear them marching and all that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, then they bring you around where you're going to get your dungarees, and you take off all your civilian clothes and pack it away and send it home to your mother. And that's also on the audio, but I'm kind of repeating myself because I've been saying this.
Go ahead and repeat yourself all you want.
Is that okay?
Yes, definitely.
Well, you know, at that time, I didn't realize that there was, what do you call it, racist. And I hate that stuff. But off in the distance, there was a group of sailors marching, and they were all black. Oh, did they ever march. They had the fanciest cadence and singing out, and it was just beautiful. Well, having been in the band, the chief says, "You be a guide on and call the cadence." So I'm up there ahead of the bunch of guys, and off to the right, and we start out. By left, right, left. Well, I'll tell you what, some of those guys had 2 left feet. Everybody was bumping into this guy and that guy, but somebody hollers from the back end and says, "Hey, we can't hear you back here." So then I had to be louder. Well, you know, about 15 minutes of that, and I was croaking. But then we stopped to do something else, and I got back my wind again, see, and so I think we marched to Chow, as I recall. Let me tell you about that. One of my first duties was, it's kind of KP duty, that's kitchen police. I was sitting there on a box, and I was told to peel the outer leaves on a cabbage. You know, you do that at home. And so there I am, I'm sitting there. Gee whiz, it's April the 5th, and it's my birthday. Oh gosh, and then I was running through my mind, you know, if I was home, Mother'd be fixing me. Sometimes I like lemon pie. She made me a lemon pie with a huge bunch of meringue, and here's these candles and all that and everything. And I get, geez, I got a little sad. And here I am, supposed to be a tough guy in the Navy, and so I had to kind of keep back my feelings and everything. And what else you want, honey?
So, you said that it's hard to keep back those feelings. Was it hard to adapt to that lifestyle?
Well, yes, it was. You hate to be told every little thing because you can almost sense what you should do, what you're being told. But I got to admit that there's a lot of those guys that they didn't know doodly squat, see? In fact, several of them came out of the south, and I said, where'd those two guys go? Well, they couldn't read or write. You know the old deal where you just sign an X or whatever the little scribble was? Yeah, they couldn't. They were illiterate. Now, I used to think, my gosh, if a guy's that way, he's probably a good worker. And chances are, because when I started my own business, just because the guy couldn't read or write, I would hire him because I knew I'd check his arm, see if he's a good worker and everything. You can always tell that gives you weight. And that's, where are we going? I can't remember.
How was it like adapting to the military lifestyle?
Yeah, well, I picked it up right away. You know, you do what you got to do and what you're told. And so I got along with the commando run and everything. It was a piece of cake because we'd been doing that in high school and have been playing football, see, and doing a rope climb and all that kind of stuff. In fact, I used to come in first when the company would go through the commando run, or whatever you call it. And the chief, he called me over because I was a little outstanding. I got to tell you that. And so I got to know this guy. He's a wonderful fella, and he had all of his yokels teach before they're going to go get their head blown off. And I found out that his wife was sick in Los Angeles. And every weekend he would drive up there and to see her. And I said, geez, that must be terrible because, see, you had to have gas stamps. You read that in the war. Well, anyway, I says, you know, Chief, I got some gas stamps in my wallet. And I said, how'd you like to have those? Jesus, I thought he was going to kiss me. And so I gave him those. And then, you see, while you're doing something all the time, and consequently you're tired all the time. And then you got to guard the clothesline at 2 o'clock in the morning with a wooden gun. Walk back and forth, walk back and forth. Well, after I gave him the stamps, I didn't have to do that anymore.
Wow. And
I got kind of light duty and everything. I wasn't nice, but I just had to do that. See? And but anyway, I come along pretty good. In fact, see, I didn't get a diploma when I graduated. I didn't get to graduate. And in fact, there was 23 fellas at graduation in June that were in the service. See? It shows you what's happening. I hope it never happens again. But anyway, that pretty much tells you. In fact, I got my diploma. It was sent to my mother because I advanced so fast in the service.
Right.
See, so okay, help me out here.
So, so where did you end up serving?
Well,
and
okay. You hear these guys stay, some guys didn't even get over school, overseas, they're going to school all the time. And so the chief says to me, he says, Willis, anybody that's over 6 feet and in good shape, we'd like to have you in the shore patrol, that's the police. And you can work right from there, and which would have been a good deal.
Right.
But I says, well, what is it? Well, how do you do this? And he says, well, you'll go to school over. I said, wait a minute, how fast do I get overseas? He said, well, first you got to go to school. I said, no, I'll cut that out. I just want to go overseas. So we had 28 days of boot camp, and the 29th day we were on an old tub called the Monrovia, heading for Honolulu, and boy, that was pitiful. Everybody got sick, and they were up chucking all over everything, and you're down in the hole, it's hot, and it was just terrible. And then it was a line for everything, you know, go to the bathroom and go to chow. Well, I got kind of tired of that, so I said to my other two buddies that I joined with, I says, you know, there's got to be a better way of doing this. So the next time we went into chow, I see these guys stepping right in front of these guys.